And welcome to Advertising Champions, your go-to destination for insights into the dynamic world of advertising. I'm Tony Stanol, and today we're with Christy Hiler, who is the CEO of Cornett. Welcome, Christy.
Hi, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Now, tell us a little about your journey in the advertising industry real quick, because I want to get into what you're doing at Cornett and the new initiative that you have there.
Sure. Well, I've been in advertising for over 20 years, and that entire time I've been here at Cornett. So I started at the very bottom and worked my way all the way to the very top. About 7 or 8 years ago, I took over as president of Cornett, and then 3.5 years ago, I purchased 100% of the agency, which not a lot of people do, and especially not women, and which spurred the other thing that I lead, which is Own It, an initiative to see more women step confidently into the position of ownership, because in this business, in advertising, less than 1% of agencies are owned by women. And you compare that to just general business, 40% of businesses are owned by women, but not in this industry. And I want to see that change.
Wow, that's a dramatic difference. Now, what types of steps do you take or guidance do you give in order to get more women owners of ad agencies?
Well, so a couple of things. Shortly after I purchased Cornett, which is a full-service, independent, female-owned advertising agency based in beautiful Lexington, Kentucky, I started asking how many other female agency owners there are, because I was going through the process of getting certified through WeBank as a women-owned business, and no one really could give me the answer. And so I just kept asking, and eventually 4A's gave me a list of 200 agencies that they knew, whether they were members of 4A's or not, are owned by women. And I knew that there were 20,000 agencies in the US. So that did not feel like an acceptable number. But I initially thought, Tony, that maybe it was just because nobody was tracking it, because 4A's had acknowledged that the list may not be complete because they weren't actively tracking it. So I had the web team here. We have a wonderful web team, and asked them to build a site to just make it easy for women to just raise their hand and say, I am a female agency owner. And so I wanted to get an accurate count. So that was step one. Let's get a real count. And 2.5 years into that, I can tell you there's more than 200. We have over 600 on the list, which is better than 200, but still definitely not enough. So the other piece of Own It is a podcast. I started a podcast because before I launched the site, I started just talking to a lot of other female agency owners, and I really enjoyed hearing their stories and their journeys, how they came into ownership. And I believe that if you can see her, it is easier to be her. And so we share every woman, female agency owner, their story and their journey, so that other women in this business can see that you can come from all parts of this business and step into ownership. And we share those stories and give them a platform because we want to recognize them, but also because we want other women to see them and stay in this business and go all the way to the top.
Right. Now, I know in the ranks of account management and creative, there are plenty of women. I don't know what the proportions are compared to men. When I was, an account executive, I had female counterparts and didn't think much about it. Yes. But you're saying that they don't always rise to the top.
Right. And the good news is, especially in the past 10 years, we've seen a lot of women step more into the position of leadership. So we have a lot more leaders than historically. I mean, just for many, many years, we saw a lot of women in the business, but not staying in the business. in the long term. There's a lot of conversations and have been about women getting out of the business and not, continuing to rise. A lot of that is because of just the demands of the industry, but we're seeing a lot more balance and workplaces that value that balance. And so there are more women that are stepping into leadership positions and seeing tremendous success. There's a lot of evidence of women both in leadership being successful and often more successful, but not at the ownership level. So we just wanted to kick that bar up one more notch and say, great, yes, keep going. Let's get more women in leadership, but that's not the end. The end is ownership.
Got it. I was not aware of Own It, so thanks for filling us in. And I told you this podcast would go by quickly, and it did. But in the last few seconds, if you could tell us something about Cornett that you're particularly proud of,
Sure.
in addition to the Own It, maybe some work you've done recently or a particular client.
Sure. Well, our agency is not a new agency, but for many people, they think of us as new. We have, I would say, especially over the past 5 years, really come on to the national stage. But this agency is over 30 years old, almost 40 years old, and we have really long, wonderful relationships. We work with a mix of clients that we've had for decades, but also big national brands like Legoland and Busch Light and A&W Restaurants. We don't specialize in any category. We have a really balanced book of business, but we are seeing tremendous growth. We kind of have the wind at our backs. We are a 3-time Small Agency of the Year winner and have a really fantastic team.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us today, Christy. Sounds like you've got a lot of positive things going on there.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having us.
And thank you for tuning into this episode of Advertising Champions. You could find more podcasts like this at dailynewsnetwork.com. And we'll see you next time.
We've been around for 16 years, working with clients, with thousands of clients. We're working with agencies to be able to scale them and grow them and provide them services that would cost them way more than it would for them to do it themselves. Anything oriented around lead generation, video creation, web design, we're full service, so we can really serve most people.